Hello, welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42, talking about tonight's action on DraftKings. And I'm fairly certain this is the most expensive pitcher we've ever seen on DraftKings. I'll have to look into it and find out for sure. But Max Scherzer is $14,500. Just to put that in perspective, if you have a blank slate, your whole team, you have $50,000, obviously 10 spots, $5,000 per player. You put in Max Scherzer by himself, and you go down to $39.44. That's not to say he's a bad play. I feel like maybe that'll keep his ownership down a little bit. But, I mean, the guy's been incredible. Over his last 3 starts, 26 innings, 6 total hits, 2 earned runs. Gave up a home run to Ben Revere, which is not going to happen very often, but 33 strikeouts. And the guy's been incredible this year. So I still think if you're playing cash games, you got to get some Max Scherzer. There's not a lot of other guys you feel good about, but you're going to have to work for it. So we'll try to help you out, find you some other options to stick in there with him. Scott Kazmir is one of those options. Seattle, outside of Nelson Cruz and Mark Trumbo, does not hit left-handed pitching well at all. This is a team that really struggles with left-handed pitching, and you look at their numbers, 19th in the league in Team WOBA, 303 Team WOBA, 5.9% walk rate. Just not very good, not a very patient team. 153 Team ISO obviously has a lot to do with guys like Nelson Cruz. Mark Trumbo hasn't been there for very long, so he doesn't really factor into that. But 9,200 for Kazmir, I think it makes him an okay option. Tyson Ross is interesting against Tim Cooney and St. Louis. If Ross can limit his walks, that's his big concern, over 11% walk rate this year. But he also has an elite ground ball rate this season of 62.8%. Second lowest home run per 9 is 0.28. So Ross is one of those guys that when he's got it going, he's one of the better pitchers in the game. But you just don't know which guy you're going to get. And he does struggle with left-handed bats, which is the biggest concern tonight. 346 will be allowed. A lot of left-handed bats in that Cardinals lineup. So he's a risky option, a GPP option for me, not a guy I'm really looking at in cash. If you need a really cheap cash option, I mean, you hate to say it, but you're looking cheap. You want a guy. Tim Cooney's a guy, 2 1/3 innings pitch, and I'm going to be picking on him. But at $4,400, this is a San Diego team that has been just god-awful recently. Obviously, much better against left-handed pitching than against right-handed pitching, but still just not very good. So this is a team, 90 WRC plus, 295 Team WOBA, still striking out 24.1% of the time against lefties. And obviously Tim Cooney, not a great pitcher, but at $4,400, if you pair him with Max Scherzer, you just hope that Cooney gives you 5 quality innings. You're not expecting a win. You're not expecting 5-6 strikeouts. But $4,400, you're taking a shot there. And I don't think that's a terrible way to go. Not a way that I'm going to be trying to go. But if I can't get a guy like Scott Kazmir, there's really no one else I feel good about. Roenis Elias is an okay option on the other side of that, but he's not a cash game option. 2 of his last 3 starts have been negative. Threw in a 32-point performance against Houston in between there. Oakland not very good against left-handed bats. They also don't strike out a lot, though. So it's going to be a tough night tonight for cash games. But for me, it's Scherzer. I'm going to try to get Kazmir. If not, I'll take a shot with one of these cheap guys. And I think that Cooney's probably your best option just because he's so cheap at $4,400. There's a ton of bats more pricey than him. And he really doesn't hurt you that much if he doesn't have a great game. As long as he gets you positive points, I think he'll probably be fine. But either way, go whichever route you'd like, but I think you do need to have Max Scherzer in your cash games tonight. All right, moving on here to catcher. There's some options. My favorite on the night is going to be Russell Martin. Absolutely. He is $3,900, and he's facing Wade Miley, who is just god-awful against right-handed batters, I should say, sorry. 346 will be allowed. Among actually qualified pitchers tonight, he's second worst behind Chris Rusin tonight. So Russell Martin, Toronto, not a surprise here at home against the lefty. They're in a great spot. Another guy I'm looking at for tournaments, Josh Phegley. Really like his price tag at $3,100. Hits lefties well. Mentioned Roenis Elias has been inconsistent. Definitely a guy you can hit. But my cash game option, if it's not Russell Martin, you got to save some money somewhere to get Max Scherzer. It's going to be Derek Norris at $3,400 against Tim Cooney. Hits lefties really well. And, I mean, that price tag is great. You're really looking for really cheap guys here that really aren't guys that jump off the page at you. Guys like A.J. Przinsky, who slide in there sometimes, get Max Scherzer, so you're not playing him. Other cheap options, Phegley's about the only other real cheap guy. So maybe look and see one of these guys who doesn't play every day, maybe gets a good lineup spot, maybe punt so you can get Scherzer. But I'm going Derek Norris more often than not. First base, Paul Goldschmidt is at home against a lefty and Chris Rusin. who I just mentioned is the worst pitcher on the slate against right-handed batters, 355 WOBA allowed. Gotta love Goldschmidt, but he's $6,000, so that's gonna be tough. Mike Napoli, a guy I'm really looking at hard, $4,200, batting 198 on the season, but he hits lefties really hard. Gets Matt Boyd tonight, who has struggled, and obviously a very small sample size in the majors, so he's a guy I'm looking at. Prince Fielder as well against Kevin Gausman, 4,500. I think he's a great cash game option. A couple other guys throw out there. Billy Butler hits lefties really well. One of the few guys for Oakland that does. Gets Rainus Elias at $3,900. He's an option. Mark Trumbo in your tournaments. I prefer him in the outfield. You can play him either spot. $3,700 though. I think that he's in play as well. Chris Parmelee, another guy. Also prefer him in the outfield, but at $2,900, he's an okay option. I'll throw out one more, really cheap. Mark Reynolds. Not a great hitter, but he is a guy with some power, and it's just a pretty potent lineup against righties. 6th in the league in team WOBA, but $2,500 first third base eligibility. I don't think he's a bad way to go if you have to punt, and you're going to need to punt to places to get Scherzer once again. Second base, Brian Dozier's $4,900. He's very expensive, but he's very good as well. He's a guy that you're looking at here. I like Ben Zobrist probably the most here at $4,200. So against Rainus Elias, he'll probably be the guy that I'll be playing the most. Jimmy Paredes in a fine spot against Giovanni Gallardo, but he's actually been pitching pretty well. So not a guy that I'm going out of my way to target, but I think he's a fine option. Colton Wong against Tyson Ross, $3,700. I think it's just way too cheap. So get some exposure there. I mentioned Ross's struggles with lefties. He's one of the guys I'm targeting him with. Robinson Cano's still cheap, but he's a lefty-lefty. Not a way that I'm really looking tonight. You can go that route if you'd like, but I'm not a big fan there. I mean, you're chasing there, and it's a good lefty, so not for me. Third base, gotta love Arenado in tournaments at $5,700 against Hellickson in Chase Field, but that's a really prohibitive price tag. Josh Donaldson's the guy you want. He's $5,200. He gets a lefty at home. We know what he does against lefties at home. We know what he does against lefties anywhere. So $5,200 is pricey, but he's your top option. I don't think it's particularly close. Machado doesn't have a great matchup against Gallardo. Neither does his teammate Chris Davis. So really don't love those guys. Because Manny Tomas still a third baseman on DraftKings, $4,200 against Chris Rusin. He hits lefties well, and I think he's a really good option that people won't be on as much as they should be. And then Matt Carpenter for your cash games, $3,800. Great option there against Tyson Ross. Once again, picking on that lefty split. And then my boy, when you can't get Josh Donaldson, I want Danny Valencia. He's $3,400. Gotta love him. Throw out one more guy I really love to play in tournaments. Brett Laurie, $3,400, gets Rainus Elias. He's got with a ton of power, a guy that can put wind into the seats, so I really like him. And if you really want to go contrarian, a guy who's actually hit the ball pretty well, homered last night. In fact, has homers in 3 of his last 4. We did see Max Scherzer make one mistake in his last game. Ben Revere, one of the worst, or at least power hitters in the game, took him deep. Juan Uribe, his ripe old age of, I believe it's 38 now, $2,800. If you want to take a shot in your GPPs, don't you dare play him in your cash games, but $2,800, shoot for the moon with him. Troy Tulowitzki's your top option at shortstop against Jeremy Hellickson. Righty-righty matchup, but Hellickson throughout his career, some serious reverse splits. Hanley Ramirez, another guy that I'm looking at here. $4,900 gets a lefty at Rogers Center. Gotta love that. Same goes for Jose Reyes, gets Wade Miley. He's been on fire. 6 hits in his last 2 games, $4,300. I still like Xander Bogaerts, but his price really getting up there. I don't want to pay the same price for him as I would for Jose Reyes. I think he's a fine contrarian option, but not a guy with a ton of upside. So, I mean, pick your spots here, but really just not a guy that I'm actively targeting tonight. Johnny Peralta, okay option against Tyson Ross. Good cash game guy there, $3,900. If you're looking for cheap guys, Marcus Semien at $35 against a lefty, and Rainus Elias hits lefties pretty well. Got to consider him. That's as deep as I'm going at shortstop. Options in the outfield. Bryce Harper gets a lefty. Not a very good lefty, though. So, I mean, he's always in play in your tournaments, but your top option is going to be Jose Bautista at $5,100. Hanley Ramirez also with the outfield eligibility at $49. You can look in his way as well. Some other interesting options. I like Charlie Blackmon, Hellickson. Mentioned those reverse splits throughout his career, but this year, giving him almost a 400 WOBA to left-handed batters, so definitely looking that way. Nelson Cruz, if you're not playing Scott Kazmir, he is a lefty, so $4,500. He's always in play in your tournaments. Also love A.J. Pollock against a lefty, and Chris Rusin at Chase Field. Looking down here cheap for your cheap options, it's pretty slim pickings. You got guys like Nick Markakis who you can usually punt with in cash games, but he gets Max Scherzer, so that's a pass for me. Other options down low. Chris Colabello gets Wade Miley. Gotta like him at $3,300. Not quite as hot as he was earlier this season, but still batting almost 340. So it's a guy you could certainly consider in a lot of spots. Danny Valencia also has outfield eligibility, so you can look his way. Travis Snyder, if you want a cheap option, $3,500. A little bit of a bigger bat. I won't say a power bat necessarily, but a bigger bat against Giovanni Gallardo for cheap. Jason Hayward, $3,600. Love him against Tyson Ross. Not trying to pick on Ross. Seems like I am, but Jason Hayward's just been a hot hitter. He's cheap. Same goes for Josh Hamilton. Only one game back. We got 2 hits in that game. Gets Kevin Gausman at $3,600. I think he's an okay option as well. And I'll throw out one more guy for you here. Alex Gordon gets the platoon advantage against Kyle Gibson at $4,000. I think he's an okay option. And then your tournament guy, Justin Upton against Tim Cooney, a lefty, $4,200. We know what this man's done against lefties throughout his career, so get yourself some exposure in GPPs. And with that, that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.